Thank you for doing it. Here we go. Welcome to the David Ed podcast. Who's on tonight, Ed?
Tonight we have Obi Abili.
Is that him right there?
That is him right there.
All right.
Famed English actor who now lives in America.
Let's get into it.
Slash Nigerian, excuse me. Sorry, Nigerian slash.
Welcome, Obi. How are you today?
How's it going?
I'm very well, sir. It's a beautiful day, and in the middle of these unprecedented times, we. I'm just so tired of hearing those two words. I think no, it's a nice day today. You know, things are a bit more kind of mellow, I think, today.
Absolutely.
How about you guys? How are you guys doing?
We are well. I'd like to begin with a non-linear question. Now that I've brought up the English Nigerian, your background, do you find that being having an English accent in the American acting scene, so to speak, is beneficial? Do they find it like mysterious and magical? Is there an allure? This is the topic that
I like that, mysterious and magical. I like it. Well, I think you know, American culture has a thing with English culture, doesn't it? There's a slightly inferiority complex thing going on. So
yes,
I think it does help me. It makes me come across as if I'm more intelligent than I actually am. Because as you all know, I'm not actually that clever. So it's nice to have this as a disguise. But no, it's I think within a black actor, a black person who has an English accent, it's still seen as kind of like it's unusual, it's different, it's exotic, it's you know, and obviously within these unprecedented times, this is for
our listeners, Obi keeps doing the we're going to have to talk about that more later. Yes.
No, I don't.
Oh no, yes, we're going to talk about it
for everyone who's not watching on YouTube.
But you know, but obviously now it's even much more of a discussion, isn't it? Because it's the ideas of labeling and you know what culture is and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's primarily to do with this idea of Englishness, doesn't it? Which is seen as somewhat superior to others, so people will put that label on you,
right?
You know, which is nonsense, really, isn't it? It is.
When you go into auditions, do you? It was funny. Just before we began this podcast, Dave and I were discussing what's that Irish actor's name again from Bridesmaids?
Chris.
Chris. Obi, this is like, I'm going to ask Obi a really intelligent question. Okay. So if we can remember his name.
He's a funny Irish actor.
Chris O'Dowd.
Chris O'Dowd. Oh, Chris O'Dowd. I used to be the same agency with Chris in England.
Really?
So,
interesting.
Yeah, Gordon French. My first job out of drama school was reading a sitcom play reading with Chris. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you remember? And did the sitcom go anywhere?
No, I don't think it did actually. No, I don't think it did. But I think that this was the point where he was about to sort of become I think he had just done the IT Crowd, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So he was now a name. So I think this is a producer that was approaching him about a project and blah, blah, blah.
Cool. Anyway, my question was, because I read an interview with him where he says, you know, obviously he's Irish and he lives over here now, I believe, but he says that he always leads as an Irish man in the auditioning room. He always walks in with the accent. Like even if the character is American, I'm going to show my Irishness. And he's done that for 20 years. And I just was wondering what your views on that, and would you just go in as an American for most auditions these days? Or
it depends. It depends what it is. And also because of these times, I did a small one that time.
You did a small and
times.
Unprecedented.
No, because it's different for black actors, because obviously for black British actors, we're constantly having to be like chameleons anyway. You know, when we're in our country, we have to learn the culture that we're from. So obviously, if you're West Indian, you're going to automatically know how your parents sound. You got your English accent. But then your English accent might be from London or Yorkshire or, you know, wherever in the British Isles, right? So you got your specific English accent. And then you've got the industry, which will always compartmentalize you in some form. So most of the time you're going to go up for an African or American role, those tend to be the roles that you would normally see in terms of the big leads on screen, right?
Right.
So you got to learn those if you're not, even if you're not from those two places. So, like instinctively, even within our culture, we British people are heavily influenced by Americans, right? So even within our patois or the way we speak, there's a lot of Americanisms in there.
Mm-hmm.
Plus the specific culture that you're from, whether it's West Indies or Africa. So I don't know. It's kind of you bring the diaspora with you in with you into the audition.
Sure.
If you know what I mean. You do.
Absolutely.
So therefore, some people are naturally good at American accents because they naturally speak them kind of in their everyday parlance. Or some people are more naturally maybe an African accent because that's the culture they're from. But yeah, so it depends what sort of black person you are, as opposed to black actor, I would say.
Right. And speaking of diaspora, let's go back in time to 1977.
Oh, yeah, let's go back in time. Let's go.
Born and raised where exactly for our viewers?
I was born in Barking, East London.
Yes. Dave has
I'm just adjusting the fan.
he's adjusting his fan.
Yeah. I'm back. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry
the
about
fan
that.
has been adjusted. Born in Barking, which is in East or West?
East London.
East London.
Yeah, man.
So proper West Ham United area?
Yeah, well, more specifically Leighton Orient. Leighton Orient could be the team that I support.
Right.
But yeah, Leighton, Mile End, Barking's just down the road from there. Apparently, if you're born within the sound of the Bow Bells, you are an East Londoner. But if you're not born in the sound of Bow Bells, you're not considered one. So Barking's always been a bit divisive. Some people think it's within the sounds of it. But I'm not. Yeah, Barking's where I was born.
How were those early years in Barking?
I don't really remember because my mother was a teacher at the Sorbonne in Paris.
Oh.
Opposed to the one in Dublin. And she was... you know the famous Sorbonne in Dublin? Like,
yes.
Of course. No, she wanted to have... she wanted her son to have an English passport. So she took... Do you remember the old... I don't know if you remember what was the ferry crossing? It wasn't the ferry. It was the hovercraft.
Oh,
the hovercraft back in the day. She took the hovercraft to England, and she wanted to have me in England so I could have a British passport. So she went to East London and had me in a Barking hospital. Well, Barking Hospital, which no longer exists. It's been knocked down.
Right.
So I was born there, and then I think within about 5 or 6 months, I went back with her to Paris because she was still studying.
Right.
And then a year and a half later, I came back to live with her in St. John's Wood in Swiss Cottage, the first formative years of my life. Upwardly mobile, Barking to Swiss Cottage, very nice.
Yeah. So you were an anchor baby before it was cool to be an anchor baby.
Yeah, basically.
Could you explain to our viewers what the anchor baby is? Oh, we lost you.
Hang on. Sorry. 1 second.
Oh,
okay,
we
still have audio, yeah. So you went to elementary school in London?
Yeah, hang on. There you go. You're back. Sorry, I was just turning the volume up because I've got you guys on a rig, so the volume is up. No, I actually went to a Montessori.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Right.
Yeah, man. I was very lucky. I didn't even know what it was until I got older. But all I knew is I remember I was surrounded by kids that were from like all parts of the world, dressed in different things. It was like one of those international Montessoris.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I was lucked out, man. It was in St. John's Wood. I was there till I was about 7 years old. So I was, hanging out with Swedes and Arabs and all sorts. It was great.
Right. Yeah. And did you play any sports when you were younger?
Yeah. I think my mum at the time told me that I used to do a lot of, well, this is before we went back to Nigeria. I did a lot of athletics. Like I used to do all that kind of stuff. Typical type of stuff. And then when I was 6, 7, we went back to Nigeria.
Yes. And
then I was there till I was 11, 12, and then I came back to England at the time.
Could you tell us a bit about Nigeria from?
Amazing. I was very lucky. I was very, very lucky because I think, with culture, you sort of take it for granted until you're older, don't you? You take for granted the ramifications and the consequences of whatever culture you're raised in. You take it for granted. And then when you get older, you realize just how complex the ripple effects are on how you're raised, where you're raised, you know. And I was very lucky between 6 till about 11, 12 to have an upbringing which basically consisted of me being a boy. Because I was in a village or in a place in Lagos where there was everyone looked like me. So there was no sense of black or white. There was just man or woman. That was the only that was the only differential thing with all the human beings there. So, and you sort of take these things for granted, don't you, when you're younger, and then you get older, and then you get to these times, and then you realize just how important certain perspectives are, right? Certain perspectives, how you see the world, because you get kind of tunnel visioned if you're born into a certain environment, so therefore you're gonna have a certain perspective that might not help you maybe see out of the box.
Right.
So I was very lucky that my mum took me back for that specific reason, to get to know my culture, but the impact it had on me was that I actually just grew up as a boy. There was no labeling going on. I didn't grow up as a black boy. I didn't know what white was, black was. I was just a boy. You know?
Would you say it was more cohesive in Nigeria at the time than it is now?
Oh yeah, because we've just been recovering from a war. So this was the 80s.
Right.
So this was about 15, 18 years after the Civil War. And you know, with most places that have a great deal of conflict, there's always like a period after where there's a lot of optimism and regeneration, right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of the back end of that. And I think just as we left, things started to get a bit really crazy.
Okay.
You know, it's well documented, the corruption and sort of the impact that neo-colonialism has had on the country. It's been pretty bad.
Right.
But that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure. Absolutely. Did you feel like you wanted to stay there? Like, were you okay with going back?
I don't know. I don't know. It was it's a good question. I kind of had mixed thoughts, because when I look back, maybe it's because of nostalgia, that was probably one of the happiest times of my life. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I do remember being in Lagos and wanting to sort of get back to England, because I was born here. I was born there, sorry. So I don't know, you're sort of conflicted as a child, aren't you? You're not conflicted, but you're getting all these different, every day is a new emotion, everything's a new learning. So when I look back, it kind of feels like a whole swimming pot of stuff. But I do remember within that swimming pot of stuff, there was a strong urge to want to go back to England. But at the same time, I was very happy being in Nigeria. I was very happy.
Right.
Because I suppose racism being such a huge thing now, these times, it's such a huge issue. What I realized at the time was that I wasn't experiencing racism. That's why I was so happy, I guess.
Right.
From knowing you as an actor, you're very physical, and
am I physical?
You're very alive.
Yeah, I mean, you're very talented too, but
Jesus. This is the David Ed podcast dynamic. I was building up to a really intelligent question.
He's actually a good actor. Come on.
Ed, you were asking me a very physical question. That's what you were asking me. Then you were going to build up to a very intelligent question.
The question was the profound statement / question. Because of, obviously in Nigeria, you speak Nigerian, am I right? And
we have over 30 different dialects.
So my point is, exactly.
And Gaelic.
Fantastic. And you mentioned earlier about being in the Montessori school with people from different backgrounds. So my point is, I think perhaps, I don't know, you can answer me, has that influenced you in the sense of I'm not just an actor who relies on my beautiful voice. I'm engaged. I appreciate other cultures, and I'm connected.
Yeah, I do. I think so. I mean, we've done a few things, Ed, and we've talked a lot, and you've sort of seen how I guess I'm just a product of my environment. Because it was quite a dysfunctional upbringing. So at the time, you're going from place to place, you don't know what the hell's going on, and then you get older again, and you realize that this has benefited you actually in some ways, that you can fit in pretty much anywhere. The downside is you don't necessarily have an anchorage, but the upside is that you can fit in anywhere. So I think part of my kit as an actor, my toolkit, is that because I was exposed to so many different experiences, that's inevitably going to be in my work.
Was there ever any inkling? Was there ever any inklings at an early age that you were going to be a performer? Like
probably, yeah, probably. It's horrible, isn't it? Because was it the same with you guys?
Yeah, sure. Yes.
It's
We're
kind of
always
like
loudmouths. Yeah.
So what was it like going back to England when you were 12 from Nigeria?
Yeah,
Like, were you
really
welcomed? Were you welcomed? No.
No,
Yeah.
it was so traumatic. It was so traumatic. It was very, very traumatic. Because you sort of know the context. You come from a place of, I mean, I was very, very poor in Nigeria,
right?
Poverty stricken. But the good thing was that, like I said, there was a cohesive culture. There was
right.
I wasn't experiencing basically racism, to be direct and blunt.
Yeah.
So you come back to England, and you realize, well, what's all this black this and white that? What is this? And you're 12 and you're trying to quickly adapt. And you have by this time you have a thick Nigerian accent, so assimilation is very difficult. And you have to quicken it. And children, we as children, we're always the most important thing. I think one of the most important things for a child is to have a feeling of belonging, to be part of something.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so if you're in school, you don't feel part of the gang because you speak different, you look different, all these things, suddenly it becomes a very traumatic experience.
Mm.
So again, day to day, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was like, okay, now I'm here and I'm in school and I have to sound like this and people are calling me this and I don't know what is this. It was a lot of figuring out on the fly.
Like figuring out how to fit in kind of thing, or? Yeah, figure out how to fit in, what your identity is.
Right.
At this time, I was unlucky because I grew up in a foster care. Within a year, I was growing up in foster care. And so that only heightened that sense of that search for belonging. You're living with different families for, I think, 5 years till I was 16. So, and then also what was interesting was that I was then going into the subculture of West Indian. So I was now not only encountering the black and white this, I was also encountering African West Indian that. So I was like, it was mad traumatic, but it was great for later on. It was so good for me for later on in terms of having an awareness of all the different cultures and the diasporas and all the genders.
Yeah, I'm curious. What was the dynamic between, let's say, the West Indian community and the African community in London?
It's intense at the time during the 90s.
Was it competitive almost?
Yeah. It's one of the lovely gifts of colonialism, right? they leave you this little gift of who's going to be.
It's called divide and conquer.
Yes.
Exactly. It's the same all over, man. Every culture, right? So I discovered that I'm an African and therefore I'm lesser than a West Indian. That's what I discovered over those 5 years.
Wow.
Right.
And just crazy stuff like a lot of West Indians are mixed with white, so you would start to even little things like your hair would be questioned. You would have bad hair because someone had good hair because they had more curly hair. You would have darker skin because someone had light skin. You would have brown eyes or someone had blue eyes. There was all this kind of Europeanized status bullshit that was going on, which I, from 12 to 16, I'm learning about this stuff.
Yeah.
So it was all very traumatic, but good, really good for me. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Did you ever play cricket?
Did I ever play cricket?
Sincere question.
Yeah. No, I never. I hated it. I didn't really like it.
Oh, yeah?
I liked watching it, but I didn't really understand it. The big thing I liked to play was football. I love soccer, man. That was the big thing, yeah.
Right.
Were you handy at that? Were you any good at that?
I was all right, I was all right. I was pretty good, but because I was a bit of a nerd as well and shy, and because of, I didn't fit in at school for all the reasons I've given, the racism, the difference. I kind of I would read a lot, so I wouldn't necessarily use my talents or want to go out for the school team, even though I was really good.
Right.
And I regret that. I really regret that. But
what were you reading? What were you reading? You said you read a lot?
Oh, when I was 12, I was reading I was reading all sorts of crazy stuff. I was reading Tolkien and Aldous Huxley and all sorts of crazy shit. I had I was ahead in terms of reading. I was quite ahead. So I would always hang out with all the 16, 17-year-old English boys. Yeah. I was quite ahead. Because you know what it's like. You're a nerd. You're isolated. So you go into your imagination.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
It becomes a real search for itself through different worlds, through different novelists, readings, ideas. And that's where the first bubbles of performance started, that's where it started happening. And I was like, oh man, I think I want to jump around in front of something.
Yeah. This is kind of a nerdy question, but like, I'm very curious too. Like, what was it like moving back to England from Nigeria when you spent like 6 years in Nigeria and like, it's such a different climate. Like you're close to the equator.
Oh yeah.
And you go back to England and it's like, it's just such
snow. Literally.
And rain, cold, and
yeah.
Did that affect you at all?
Depression?
It's weird. No, it's really weird because I actually love snow. I'm a huge fan of it. So it's a weird thing because I would read a lot. I was reading a lot by the stage. My imagination was running wild. So one of the vivid visions I would have was what it would like to be standing under a snow tree and having snow around and snowflakes. So when I first experienced it, when I came to England, I was like going nuts. I was going crazy. I was like, this is amazing. This is like the best thing ever. And don't forget as well, I had been in Europe up until the age of 6.
Okay.
So it was there would be all these recollections coming back. So I loved it. I'm a big fan of it. I don't really feel the cold when it snows. I just don't like wind and wet. I don't like that.
Right.
That's horrid.
Mm-hmm.
That's horrid.
So as the teenage years developed, did you find yourself instantly being a hit with the women?
No, mate. Really? I had no game, bruv. That's what we say in London. Right. I had no game.
Well, rumor has it you took a nice girl to see Pulp Fiction one time.
Oh yeah, this is a New York Times interview.
And it ignited a fire in your belly.
Was that before or after studying war crime journalism?
That was before.
Okay, very good.
That was before.
You were 17.
You were 17.
I did the math.
Very good. Tell us about that famous incident that was reported in the New York Times.
So anyway, you went to see Pulp Fiction with a girl, and it ignited.
The reason,
a blonde, a long blonde.
All right, so can we focus?
Okay.
But check this out. The reason why that story is in there is because I was not a hit with the ladies, lads. I was not. I was a nerd. So Charlie, trust the name to be Charlie, and trust her to be blonde and tall and beautiful.
I had a girl called Charlie too.
She was literally like Uma Thurman. She was literally like Uma Thurman incarnate. It was nuts. It was weird. Brilliant. So I summoned up the courage to ask her out a date. She was like, all right, where are you going to take me? So I was like, Pulp Fiction. I don't know what it is. So we went. And I was, the whole time, I was just terrified. I was just sitting there and then all of a sudden, this dude with the jerry curl starts quoting the Bible. And I forget about Charlie. I was transfixed. She disappeared. I was just like, who the hell, what is this?
Yes.
Right.
And then when we came out, she was like, you enjoyed that, didn't you? I was like, it's amazing, that dude and the thing and Big Mac with cheese and this and that. And we never hung out again. She just thought this guy he's not the one. He's not.
But later you met Sam Jackson, right?
Very briefly. We're fast forwarding a bit, but I was very lucky. I met him at 3 times in my life have I met Samuel L. Jackson. It's really weird. The first time was when I was 18. One of my friends was a Sony records company exec. And do you remember Destiny's Child?
Of course.
Beyonce, the group. Yeah, of course. When they were really young, this is when Beyonce was like 15 and a half, 16. They were doing like a party, like when they were doing a launch. And my friend who could get tickets to these things, he invited me. And Samuel L. Jackson was there because they were doing Star Wars, the second Star Wars that he was in. Mm-hmm. And he was there at the party. So I said hello, and I was all like freaking shit myself. I didn't say much. I was like, oh, And then the second time I met him a few years later was when I was at RADA, when I was at drama school. And he was staying at a hotel that my friend worked at. And I'd always go and say hello to my friend. And he literally just walked through the lobby. And I was just staring. And I was like, hi. And my friend was like, oh, yeah, Sam's staying on the floor. And then the third time, the final time I met him was later on that month. And I think he was doing, the reason he was in the hotel, I think he was doing like press for something like The Long Kiss Goodnight, something like that. One of those films, right? And I summoned up the courage to go and say, I said, listen, man, you're a hero of mine. I think you're amazing. You know, I gave him all the spiel. And all he said to me was, next time I see you, you better have a job. That's all he said to me.
Nice.
And so when I did the interview for the New York Times, I was like, you know, if Samuel Jackson's reading this, I got a job, bro.
Yes, indeed. And we'll talk more about those acting jobs shortly, but we want to talk a bit about your interesting decision to study war crime journalism.
At university.
War studies at King's College, mate.
Yeah.
War studies, yeah. Well, I guess by the time I was 21, you know, you got a context of like my life. Like I didn't know quite what I was going to do. I knew I liked performing. By this time I was watching a lot of films, and I had come out of foster care and I was living on my own in a flat in London. And, you know, it was an inner city flat. It was kind of a crossroads moment. It sounds a bit dramatic, but it's the truth. Like, because a lot of my friends were like drug dealing, doing all sorts of mad shit. And I knew like deep down, I didn't want to do any of that. Like not as some kind of weird conscious decision, but it just didn't interest me. Right?
Yeah.
Well, that's the best way I can describe it. It wasn't some kind of thing of good and bad. And so I made the decision to go back to college because I'd left college when I was 16, and I tried to get a job to keep up the flat that you're given by the state when you leave foster care. And that was a stupid decision. So I went back to college and did a course for 2 years, and then within 2 years I got into. I realized I wanted to sort of make an impact in the world in some way, and I'd always had an interest in conflict. Because when I was younger, I wanted to join the military, which I think a lot of young men dabble with when they're trying to find their masculine energy themselves and all that kind of stuff, their worthiness as a man. And I realized that killing people wasn't really the thing that I wanted to be doing. And so then I thought, what's the closest thing to that? Maybe I could be within those zones, making a difference in a moral way, which I think is really what a lot of war photographers are. I think a lot of them have a fascination with fighting and death and the masculine ideal. I think a lot of them, I mean, I was to find this when I started to read up about a lot of these war journalists or war photographers. The best ones who've written memoirs or biographies, they admit that there is they have some kind of conflicted past with ideas of masculinity, comradeship and camaraderie, all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of where I was at 21, but I didn't know. All I knew was that I just wanted to, I wanted to save the world, I wanted to do something, right? So I applied to King's College, which has a course which is kind of, it's basically, I mean, in Cambridge and Oxford, they call it PPE, politics, economics and philosophy, right? And you can use, you can study that through a conflict resolution or a conflict lens, right? I think in Warwick, they call it peace studies, which is funny because their idea is that they deal with arbitration of organizations that resolve conflicts. So the UN, many of the things that have happened in Ireland, those sort of committees and those kind of organizations, many things that have happened in Rwanda, Truth and Reconciliation in South Africa. So they look at it the other way. And I think in Aberystwyth, it's called, where the idea of studying war or conflict began, it's called peace studies. So I applied to all these places. I got into King's, and which is a really tough place to get into, and I was very lucky and worked hard, and I started studying there. Started studying war studies, man. I started to see if I could make a difference.
And can you talk a little bit about like what you were studying and like?
Well, I decided I decided to specialize in EU arbitration and Middle East, and also ethics and philosophy, which is basically killing. You know, the ideas, the psychology of killing, because it's such a broad like canvas, right? So you can there were guys there that were going to join the armed services that were going to go into weapons procurement and dealing like high-tech delivery systems. So we're doing papers on that. There was an Israeli girl there called Hilla Baron who was going to study. So she basically was probably a member of Mossad or something. She was going to do all that sort of stuff. There was a Swedish guy there called Magnus who was actually doing the thing I wanted to do. So he would come and stay for a couple of workshops, lectures, get all his essay titles for that semester, and he would go off to like Chechnya, Gaza Strip, take loads of pictures, sell them, come back, he was literally living the life that I wanted to do. So you had guys like that.
Right.
And then you have people who were going to join Sandhurst and become, killers. It was quite a mad cause. So you could specialize in whatever you wanted to do as long as it was from the perspective of conflict. So I decided to do like that, Middle Eastern strategy and ethics and philosophy and EU arbitration.
So
but I was really in the philosophy and the ethics. That's where I was.
So war is a business then?
Well, you do know the top three. Is it the top 3 or 4 industries in the world? It's the sex industry, the drug industry, and arms. I think arms.
Who knew?
Something. but in terms of academia, it's now like it's monetized too, man. You can become an expert on it. But I wanted to be a lover, not a fighter. I wanted to.
Of course,
be
sure.
Yeah. Of course. That's what I wanted.
No,
to do. No, but the thing is, I'm being honest. I'm lying. I was lying to myself.
Yeah.
I was lying to myself. I was on a quest for identity. That's what I was on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's right. That's why you didn't like pursue it more. After you
I'll tell you what. It's this whole life reads like a freaking book. It's like a movie.
Yes.
The first year I was there, I started to get the first rumblings of doubt. Being one of the very few like black people on the whole course as well. So you're coming across like systemic things.
Yes.
Systemic things. You can fill in the second word, systemic things.
Could you give us examples of those systemic things?
Does it begin with R?
Coffee, vomit.
What? No examples of those?
Anyway. Oh, man. Oh, I'm so tired.
Yeah.
So, no, but you're getting all that and you're dealing with your own personal journey, right? In this whole, like I was saying, there was a lot of realizations that that were coming to the surface. What am I really doing this for? Why? And so I come back, I go to Sweden for the summer in September. And I've got to go be back for my second year 4 or 5 days later while I'm in Stockholm. So I'm away. And it's like the 3rd or 4th day I'm there. And I'm in a cafe sending emails and with my friend. And someone comes running down the stairs and says, oh my God. It's really crazy. There's a plane that's hit the World Trade Center. So me and my friend go running up the stairs. And we're in Kungshallen, which is in Stockholm, King's Square in Stockholm. And we're watching as the second plane comes around and the images now and all the craziness. And we were trapped in Stockholm because there were no flights out for the next 3 days. And so like 4 or 5 days later, I'm back in my second year, the beginning of my second year, all these doubts were in my head. I've just seen this nutty event. The whole department, half the department had been called away by the government to write white papers in terms of the response that was to come, because there were already troops down on the ground in Afghanistan and all this craziness. So within all this whirlwind, I'm thinking, this isn't what I should be doing. I instinctively knew that there was, deep down, I knew that this wasn't my path. Even though I was still studying, I knew that it wasn't going to be for me because there were many things during that period that didn't make sense to me and were pretty scary, and realizations that I perhaps was biting off more than I could chew, when that sort of pit of perception, that door opens slightly, and you're like, oh, I don't like what's in there.
Really?
There was, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of crazy stuff happening. And, the King's College War Studies Department is one of the first departments that the government will ask the professors and people to conduct studies or to find out what solutions there are for any form of conflict.
Solutions?
So,
what do you mean?
Yeah.
Solutions?
Because
For our listeners, we did the inverted thing.
We have
represented times of systemic things. It's all horrible, isn't it? All of it's horrible. It's all killing people and murder and death. It's all horrible. So solutions. That's a nice.
It's great.
A nice attached word, isn't it?
Follow the money, as they say.
There's great money in that, though. It's great, it's great money. That's money. 20
money.
tell you all about that.
So they'll be one of the first departments that will be asked to offer solutions for any kind of conflict.
Okay.
They would. So you're in there, and you're one of the few kind of lefty, peace-loving dudes. And there's all this crazy world event crap going on. And half the department are away down Downing Street, mandating, troops on the ground. The whole thing was mad. And I was like, this is not where I should be. It's not.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Indeed.
So you decided you should be where?
No, so a few months later, as luck would have it, my friend, bless her, Funke, who was studying law.
Friend? Was she a dear friend? We want to be specific about this decision.
Was she your
no. She was definitely a friend. She was a fresh friend. None of that funny business. I did have a girlfriend at the time.
Okay, very good. But this friend changed the course of your life.
She did.
Wow.
She did. Because she dared me to go for an audition for the King's Players Union. And they were doing a Tom Stoppard play.
Which was?
The Invention of Love.
How apt.
And she said, she said, I'll make a fool of myself. I'm going with the audition with you. And if we both go in, but you have to do it with me. But she knew what she was doing because she could see that I was a bit, I like to mess about, just joke around. And, she saw that there was something there that I was sort of trying to deny to myself. And she saw sort of frustration that was building over the next couple of months after I realized that maybe this is not the world that I should be in.
Yes.
So I went through the audition with her and I got the part. Moses Jackson.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm just curious about the specifics of this audition because it was your first ever audition.
Yeah, it was, man.
So, did you have time to prepare or whatever, like anything like that?
No, I just read the play. Read the play.
And
I didn't really understand it. I was like, what is this Tom Stoppard geezer going on about?
Right, exactly. And we still don't know that. But,
were you reading from sides?
Yeah, was it a scene?
They just said, read the play and we're going to just pick a scene. Because in the play, basically, A.H. Houseman, the famous poet, right here.
Yes.
It's basically his unrequited love for Moses Jackson, the athlete at Oxford, Cambridge, I don't know which.
Oh, great.
And all that.
Yeah.
And so I was
forbidden love.
Forbidden.
All that. Nothing like a forbidden love.
You were the person he was desiring.
I was the object of his desire. That's what I was auditioning for.
Naturally.
They'd already cast a guy called Nat in the lead, so they were looking for Moses. So I went in and I read it, and they gave me the part.
Great. And how were rehearsals and everyone in the cast and all that?
It was just bizarre, man. It was so bizarre, man. Like, English actors are very particular, aren't they? That type of Englishness, right? It's very it's really bizarre. Like, I found it so, I found everyone so kind of not real, like just a bit weird and fake. Like,
could you expand on that, please?
Yes, we can. Like, I don't know. This is where I'm going to get myself in trouble.
Well, you won't get yourself in trouble at all.
It's trying to get you in trouble.
I'm in a very Howard Stern mood tonight.
Yeah. And
why not?
We need you to just lay it all out there. Tell us.
Just tell us everything.
Yeah.
No,
I'm going to be Piers Morgan on your ass.
We want sound bites.
I'm like all these boys and girls are like National Youth Year and all that kind of.
We get
all that malarkey.
Yeah.
I'm walking in with all my
working class guy.
You're a working class guy.
Well, to a degree. I mean, I was lucky to have a good education. I mean, I'm a young black male in this white environment. I've got all this mad experience behind me, like, in terms of life experiences. And all these kids are very, very sort of manufactured, sort of NYT, guys and girls.
What does that stand for? New
So
York?
I found it weird.
Okay.
It was a bit weird. I didn't understand any of it. I didn't understand all the behaviors. I didn't get it.
I have to ask you, Obi. You can ask as well, Dave, after I ask this Howard Stern type question.
He wants to go first.
Was the lead actor gay and was he attracted to you?
I don't think he was actually. I don't think he was gay, but I think there was, a little thing going on there.
Sure, yeah.
Who wouldn't fight over
fetishization, going on there. A little bit of fetishization going on there. No. I don't know. Matt, I haven't seen him in years. Matt, I don't think Matt's gay. I think he's very straight. But
you're still in touch? That's nice.
No. I haven't. Well, I saw him when I was at drama school, when I got into RADA, I saw him very briefly a year after that, which was really nice. But no, at the time, I mean, I was just kind of a bit bemused by the whole world. Like, but when I stepped on the stage, it all made sense. If that made sense. I stepped on the stage and I was like, oh, I know this. I get this. You know, it was one of those moments, right?
Can you talk about that a bit more? Can you talk about your first experiences in front of a live audience and how that made you feel?
It was like a relief.
Tell us all about it. We want to hear it.
It was such a relief. It was such a relief. It really was. Because you can imagine, I'd spent 2-3 months thinking about what the fuck I was going to do.
Sure.
Because, you know, the most important decisions have to be made from within. So even though I was still on the course and I was still studying, I knew deep down that there was no way that I was going to want to become a war journalist. There was no way that I was going to pursue that course in my life, because the truth wasn't the truth of my destiny and my path. So I was like a bit lost, and I stepped out the Greenwood Theatre in London Bridge, first night of Convention of Love, and it was like, oh yes, I get this. I understand this. I can work with this. I know what to do here. This makes sense. You know.
Oh.
It was amazing. It was an amazing moment. There was like a clink, like a.
Did you feel at home?
Yeah. Well, I mean, way more at home than freaking in the middle of Vietnam or Chechnya or something that I would have felt. You know, I felt way more at home trying to tell a story.
Sorry, did you feel like you found home?
Yeah, I did.
Beautiful.
I did, and I've been running around the house trying to be comfortable ever since, right? That's what we do as actors.
Wow, that's poetry.
That's what we do as actors, man.
Yeah. How did you feel? Like, were you aware of the audience's reactions to you?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just pushing myself down here because my screen is on your face, Dave. Yeah, I was aware of everything. It's like, I mean, you guys know when you're in it, it's almost as if time stops and everything, every atom, every molecule, every, breath, every beat of sweat, everything suddenly becomes very heightened and everything just really slows down. You suddenly become almost like you're one with everything,
Absolutely.
And that's such an addictive feeling. It's such an addictive feeling, isn't it?
And after the show, were the public immediately sycophantic towards you? Were they praising you to the hilts, or was it good job?
No, I was never. That was the first moment I should have worked on that, because I from that moment I was always uncomfortable with that. And I know older that it's something that, I know a lot of actors are very similar. They get anxiety over that. We get anxiety when people are saying, yeah, we do, don't we? And some people are much more easy at handling that than others. But from very early on, I was never good at that. So I was really uncomfortable because I never knew if people were being serious or not, or they were just patronizing you.
Interesting.
I was always sensitive to that. Like, I always would sort of want to scurry away type thing.
Okay, we're getting to a key point in Obi's development now, and I want the intricate details.
RADA, is it?
Yes, I want to know about the decision to audition to RADA. I want to know the 2 audition pieces you did. I want to know the school, the auditioners, everything. Okay. We want the intricate details about this institution.
And just so you know, this is about Obi.
Yes. Okay. We want to know the public. Thank you, Dave. All right.
I mean, it was obvious after that. Then it was just a case of when I was going to audition for drama school, right? After that, we did it for a week, and then I was like, this is what I want to do.
Yes.
And so what actually happened was I started to look at drama schools, and in that time I was looking for drama schools whilst I was finishing my degree. There was a director that came down from Cambridge, Oxford, and he had just finished English and he wanted to be a theatre director.
Oh.
And the great thing about Oxbridge is that a lot of them don't need to specialise in whatever craft that they do, because they have everything there already. So, a lot of actors who go to Oxford or Cambridge don't really need to go to drama school if they are choosing to train in that way, because these colleges will put on 300. I think Oxford, well, both of them pretty much equivalent, put on like 300 plays each a week. Like through the different colleges. Like if you're studying whatever and you're doing that for 3-4 years, that's like a free drama training.
Yeah.
Because I never used to understand how, you know, agents would go up to, you know, the footlights and all that, and they just sign people. It's because they're literally doing it every week, like for a sustained period of time. So it's like a drama training. So he had been through that, and he wanted to become a theatre director. And so he came down, and whilst I was looking for my how I was going to go to drama school and finish my degree, he put up an advert in King's College, and it was a play called La Musica Deuxième. See, look, I'm sounding all like the culture, aren't I? La Musica Deuxième. My mother will be turning it. My mother will be turning in her bed in London right now. Bit of Portuguese.
Who's the author?
It's a play by Marguerite. It's a play by Marguerite Duras.
Oh, very good.
Really hardcore freaking. Again, don't forget, I done one play. I don't know what all this was about. I was like, Marguerite Duras, who's this? So
is that how you really talk?
Yeah, that's how I really talk. I talk like this. Marguerite Duras. What's that? What's this Marguerite Duras? So I went in and auditioned, got it, and Raph Kingston, the director, was like, we need to pair you up with a girl, and the girl I played with was Lucinda Millwood. And when we finished doing that, I said to him that I'd been looking at drama schools, and he said, I think you should go, but you should only go to the best places, because for him, and he was right, if you're going to train, don't waste your time training. Only waste your time if it's the very best place, because training is a training. What you need to be doing is you need to be doing it. That's the best way to train. So if you're going to spend 3 years anyway, at least go to the best place, because it's an industry to give yourself that kind of validation. So he encouraged me to audition for all the places, you know, Guildhall, Bristol Old Vic, again, RADA, and Drama Centre, Trauma Centre. And I was like, I got offers from most. And when I went into RADA, that's what they call it, Trauma Centre.
That's great.
When I went into RADA, what was funny was I hated it. I hated the audition of RADA.
Why?
I didn't like it.
Why?
Because you sort of walk in there.
Give us a scoop.
You walk into Gower Street, there's a massive freaking portrait of the Queen with a, you know, turnip face, you know, and a crown looking at you. You go up the stairs and it's all this pomp and nonsense, and then you go into this sterile room, and it's like, it's almost like they're saying, you know, like, what can you do for us? Like, I think if you're going for an institution, it should be a nice balance of, we have this to offer to you, and what can you offer? Like, but very much RADA is all about like, where are they? Right. So it was like that for like the 3 rounds, and I started to just think, this isn't where I want to be. Guildhall now was perfect. It was great. It was so good. The students would help all the auditionees and take you around. And it felt like it felt like a nice little family. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
I wanted to go there. But what happened was, under the laws at the time, I already had a degree. I already had got a student loan. So for me to apply for another one was going to be really difficult. And I think Guildhall is under the City of London. There's some kind of amendment or stipulation, which meant that it was going to be difficult to find like a lot of money over the course of the summer. So I basically had to go. I mean, it sounds pretentious, but I had to go to RADA in the end. It was my second choice. I know. I had to go to RADA.
Oh.
I know. But it was tough, man.
It was three rounds. So could you talk a little bit about the
Yeah. The first round. Oh yeah, you wanted to know exactly what happened. So the first, I did Henry V, St. Crispin's Day, which is, yeah.
Did you grab the balls?
You know that one?
I know that one. Yeah, Dave knows it well.
Yeah. I got in trouble for that in acting school. I grabbed my balls when I said it.
Yes.
And the teacher told me, don't ever do that again.
Yeah.
That's terrible. I would love to see that version. Like, it's
not on tape.
Look at all these wet English actors doing it. I'm always like, oh, shut up. I don't believe you. Yeah. And so it was that. And then I did, what was the other one? So mad how life works out. 6 degrees separation.
Oh,
the imagination speech.
Which you ended up doing later, which we'll get to later. Yeah.
I did. I ended up doing that at the Old Vic, which was bananas.
So, what was the sense after doing it? Did they look at you neutrally, or did they direct you? How many people were auditing?
They were very neutral. They were very neutral. They because the whole, you know, the RADA process was very kind of. I mean, I think this is such a complex thing, lads, because there's so much going on right now with what we're, you know, these times that you look back at all these instances in your life.
What's he referring
where,
to?
What could I be referring to? What's going on? You look back at all these times in your life, and you're like, if only what was happening now, you know, was happening then.
Oh.
So there's so many complicated memories that I have, not just of the audition, but of my time at RADA, that I just wish that I had gone at another time. You know, I mean, it was great to go strictly for getting, like, you know, the rubber stamp of validation for the industry. If you went to RADA, it means something, didn't it? But in terms of your personal growth as a person, it was another kind of trauma point, you know. And the audition, kind of started off in the audition. You know, I felt that there was I felt with RADA, it felt like this Englishness, this ideology, this whiteness was going to be the thing that they were going to teach me to be like.
Oh.
So, you know, when you're doing the Shakespeare, and I'm doing my version of Grabbing My Balls, they're going, oh, well, when we get him in, we'll show him how to do it properly.
Yeah.
He needs to be taught. That's what rather than embracing of me as a person. Because the first inkling of, I really feel of what I was as an individual, like really truly breathing as an individual throughout the whole process of the 3 auditions, was when I did the Paul speech, the imagination speech, because that kind of, the idea of being an American is something that, especially Black Americans, I mean, it's funny how these times is having such an impact on the British Isles. Like, the idea of being a Black American is something that I think inherently British people find, or the white English people especially find very threatening because of the individuality and the freeness, the independence, the need for that, the recognition of whiteness. So during that time, I was like, again, I wish I knew what I knew now, because I was having these thoughts, but I didn't understand what they were, you know?
Right. So
the first round, you're in front of 2 people who look like, you know, grey man and grey lady, no expression, not giving anything away. You go in there,
shouting your head off.
Yeah.
Thank you. And you leave thinking, oh, what have I done? And then you get the thing saying, come back. And you're like, oh, well, okay, I must have done something right. And then this time it's in front of a panel of people. Thank you. You leave, and you think, oh, that's that then. And then they call you back for a day with 10 other desperados, right?
Yes.
And or 15, depending on the group. And they want to see how you work for like 6 hours in RADA with other people. And one of the funniest moments this was the only kind of funny, well, it was funny, yeah, it was funny. But the whole process was the final round, which was the whole, like the day with everyone. You know, you get called in with like 10 other actors. Or I think we had 10 other people in my room. You go upstairs. There's a woman called Pat Myers, dear woman who I think is retired. She's like the registrar of RADA, right? And she takes us all into this room, and the Queen's on the wall and shit. And you're all around you're literally around a round table. And everyone's scared. You know, you've all done your rounds, you've all done your speeches, you've all been invited back. And then Patrice, they know what they're doing. It's all intimidation. Round table, you know, big portrait of the Queen. You're at the best place. Pat Myers comes in and says, right, this is the final round of RADA. You guys are very lucky to be in this position. I wish you all luck. You're going to spend the day acting and, you know, playing with your fellow auditionees and all that. Before we start, please leave all your valuables and items, like coats and things, in this room. I need to take anything right now that is not going to be of use when we go into the rooms to do the workshops and things. The only thing you should have are your tracksuit bottoms and like a loose shirt. That's it. And I shit you not, there was this guy that was sitting at the far end. He looked kind of like East European. Like he had like a longer dark hair and he had the leather coat and he was like this the whole time, you know. Like. And so she said this, she's looking around and we're all taking off our coats and putting our phones on the table. This dude takes off his leather coat and he pulls out this sword. Like it was like he just calmly pulls out this sword and he just places it with all the belongings. Like Pat Myers, she didn't even blink. She didn't even bat an eyelid. She was like, "Thank you very much. The auditions. You guys go this way." She just took the sword on the forward. She didn't even bat an eyelid. Brilliant. It was brilliant.
So in that third round, they were obviously trying to see how, like you said, play with each other and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you do like a lot of improv and all that kind of crack? Or
yeah, we did the cherry orchard.
Oh God.
And we've had oh God. We did the cherry orchard. We did scenes from that, and you know, then all that, and had to play around with it. And then we did a little bit of movement and breath, and you know, a bit of improv with each other.
Right.
And, you know, and meanwhile, they were all coming in, and they've all got their notepads, and they're all staring, and they're all watching, and all this shit. And everyone's trying so hard to impress.
Yeah.
You know, I hate that.
Did you, as the day progressed, did you have a feeling like, oh, I'm in at any point?
Nah. It's all everyone's, because you know the energy's so frantic, like, isn't it? So no one knows.
Sure. Right. Sure.
You know, every kind of like could mean that you're not in. Right. And every like, oh, that was good, could mean you're in. So everyone's, you know, you guys have been in the situation. And
of course.
They're like calls, so they're just insane. Like, so yeah.
Were you the only black person in this process?
No, there was me and another guy, and there was quite a mix.
Right.
Because one of the interesting things about RADA at the time was that it was undergoing it was no longer it was going to enter the conservatoire. So up until this point, RADA had been a private institution. Yes. It wasn't under the rulings of the government, like the government loan scheme. So in order to get on that and go onto that national, you had to basically have money to go to RADA, or they'd have to give you a special scholarship. They were totally in control of the situation and the intake of students. So in order to survive, RADA had to go into the national curriculum and the loan scheme. But in order to do that, they had to observe a diverse, I hate these words, a diverse quota. So they had to have like a minimum amount of blacks and they call them BAME now, don't they? Yeah. Ethnic minorities like within the whole school. And such was RADA's like the paucity of like just non-white people in the whole school that they had to shove in 9 non-white actors in 1 year of acting to make up for the quota divided. And that created a whole kind of thing, that's the name, maybe a story for another time, but that was the next 3 years of my time at RADA, like all the ramifications of that, which are really bananas.
I find that a lot of these quota systems are quite insincere.
Yeah.
They're totally insincere. Insincere.
And
you know.
I mean, that makes one feel like, or I don't know, would that make one feel like I didn't get in on merit? I just got in because I'm black or Irish or whatever? Yeah, all that. You feel all that. But most importantly, you sort of feel it establishes very quickly. You know, I remember when we all came in and there was 9 of us. I remember the dramaturg of RADA, Lloyd Trott, going, he's very gay, he's very sort of effeminate. He's like, oh, this is wonderful. There's so many of them.
Was he fetishizing black people?
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. He was very exciting. Many of them. I mean, he's a dear man. But that's the most important what you guys are saying about like feeling that you're not like getting in based on just your talent, but also you know what you're getting into, if that makes sense.
Right.
That's kind of more important. You know that this space that you're in is a space that is not really for you. And your presence is kind of I'm ready. You're a stranger in a strange town. You're a visitor. You're not. It's not home. Yeah.
So how did you receive the news? Via a phone call or?
Again, it's like a movie, bro. I was working in Dixon's at the time.
Dixon's.
Yeah, do you remember
For our
Dixon's?
American viewers, what's Dixon's?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think I said this last time.
Yeah.
Dixon's is like it's like Best Buy, isn't it?
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Best Buy.
Okay.
It's like Best Buy.
Selling shoes? Selling.
No,
Oh,
computers.
computers.
Shoes. I was selling shoes in Dixon's. Best Buy sells shoes. Yeah. No, electrical stuff.
Right.
So by this time I'd finished uni and I decided to work for 9 months while I was auditioning and to see where I was going to go. And it was mad, man. Like literally, because Tottenham Court Road is around the corner from RADA. RADA's on Gower Street. The Tottenham Court Road branch of Dixon's where I was working at. And this is so crazy. One day I was working and I'd done the auditions. So I was waiting. It was like 1 week, 2 weeks. I was waiting. And then they normally call you or they send you both. They send you a letter. So I was waiting for the letter and the phone call. And one day, Alan Rickman walks in and he comes up to me and says, I need to buy a TV. And I'm just staring at him like, I don't know. I'm like, I need to say something, right? Because I've been waiting for 2 weeks. So I'm like, yeah, sure, I can help you with that. And I said, what sort of TV is it? Oh, it's for my mum. She's very ill, so I just need a small bedside TV. And I'm like, okay, well, And the whole time I'm thinking, I need to say something. I've been waiting for 2 weeks. Maybe you can put it in a good way. It'd be nice. So eventually, like, we go to the checkout and everything. I've got the TV, and he's paying, and he's about to leave. He says, thank you. And I go, sorry. I run after him. I say, before you leave, sorry, mate. I know this sounds weird, but I've actually applied for the school up the road because he's on the board. Right?
Yeah.
And he's like, really? I was like, yeah. Have you done all your pieces? He asked me the same questions you guys asked me.
Right.
Christmas Day, imagination, da-da-da. And he was looking at me like, He said, I think you'll be all right. That's what he said. And he just left. Oh. And literally 2 days later, I'm at work, same bar. I get a phone call from Nicholas Barter saying, we'd like to offer you a place in Royal Academy.
Fantastic.
Mad.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what year was that?
2003.
2003. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many years did you spend at RADA training?
3 years.
3 years.
3 years. Yeah, man.
Could you tell us
very crazy years.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about it. Like you did all sorts of things like fencing, etc., right?
Yeah, literally. No, literally. It sounds like fun. It sounds like a proper, like, again, it sounds like such a mad sort of skit from a freaking comedy English, like the Monty Python sketch. But you would literally have to do this thing called the, what was it called again? Oh, it was, because, RADA's 100 years old, so they have all these traditions that they've kept.
Sure.
And they had one of these, what was it called? What was it? It'll come to me. Right. Like, for example, the showcase, all the other drama schools say, Guildhall showcase, whatever showcase, right? It's called the tree at RADA. The tree.
The tree.
We call it the tree.
The tree.
Right.
The tree. The reason it's called the showcase is called the tree is because of Sir Benham Tree, who was the founder of RADA in 1900, whatever it was.
Wow.
So we don't call it the showcase, we call it the tree. And so all these little traditions, and one of the traditions is, the name will come to me in a minute, but there is a fight. There is in the second year, in terms of you get to do a public performance in front of, obviously, like in the theatre, in front of people. Normally, drama schools will wait till the third year before you do a public performance. RADA have this special kind of tradition, which is a fight. Which is like a fight. The name escapes me, but it's like a fight trophy. So you do an unarmed, armed, and best armed and unarmed scene in front of anyone. Anyone can come to see it. Yeah. And so me and Richie did Macbeth with dagger and rapier and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And we had like unarmed elements in it. We were punching each other and stuff. And we won this trophy for best armed combat in a sequence. I mean, you get this little trophy, and then you get a certificate which says that you're like certified stage fighting expert. So we had all, so you get all these little traditional things that build up towards your showcase.
Right.
But in terms of the training, it's the same old that I guess is the most. It's like some very Stanislavskian, very a lot of physicality. But I think what RADA try and do is they focus. What their idea is that the RADA actor should be direct to proof, is what they like to say. So the idea is that the RADA actor can pick whatever they give you, like a wide array of things, tools. So a bit of Stanislavski, bit of method, bit of clowning, whatever it is, and then you can focus on that thing. So they give you like a whole entree and stuff, and then the best actors will like go down a certain route and specialize in that. So I tend to be a bit more methody, Stanislavski, a bit shouty, a bit intensey. The animal. What's your animal?
What was your animal?
Yeah.
Depends on it. Well, what in terms of me? What do you think my animal is? What would you say my animal is?
Teddy bear. I mean, like
a tiger or a lion.
Tiger. No, yeah, I'd say like a bear. Some kind of a bear.
Yeah. Everyone says that. like a bear, a bear, or
black bear maybe,
or a dolphin, I guess.
And when we say bear, we're not giving any hope to our friends in Chelsea. Anyway, I have a question about your classmates.
Yeah.
You had some famous classmates, I believe.
I do.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Yeah, she's done well, hasn't she? She's fucking.
Can you tell our audience?
Phoebe, man.
Yeah, tell her about that.
Shit.
Yes.
Phoebe's amazing. Like she had such a hard time. And I'm so proud of her because she was one of, I think, 2 or 3 actors that left without an agent.
Right.
So after we finished The Tree, now you know what The Tree is.
The Tree. She's
standing in the foyer. All the agents are, hobnobbing all the people they liked and chatting. These horrible. They're horrible, these things.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget this because again, it's like a film. All of this stuff, these visions and these things that happen, you can't believe they happen. I'm standing. Like my agent came and she had a script for me because my agent's gangster, right? So she brought a script to the showcase, and as soon as I came out, she says, "You have an audition in 20 minutes. Take this, get the fuck out of here."
Right.
Speak to these guys. She's amazing. Yeah, I was so blessed to have her as an agent.
Was she a Cockney Jew?
Yeah. What was that?
Was she a Cockney Jew?
Was she a Cockney Jew?
Was she a Cockney Jew? Where did I come from?
Dave's imagination.
Cockney Jew. Anyway,
yeah.
A tough
we love everybody, by the way.
By the way, we love everyone on this podcast.
Actually, no. More interesting. Kate's dad is Dylan Bryden, who's a famous theatre director.
Yes.
And her uncle used to be the head of the IOC.
Yes.
And her brother is the head of the Associated Press, president of Associated Press.
Wow.
So so she's like.
So she's one of the elite.
One of the cabal. Yeah. Very good.
Obi. But yeah, so she gives me the thing.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Let me tell you the story. She gives me the script. Go on, get out of here.
Clearly a Cockney.
Get out of here.
Del boy.
And so I'm walking out, and as I'm walking out, I see Phoebe standing by all the, because RADA, they put up a nice spread, all the champagne, all the canapes, all that shit. And she's standing there on her own, no agent with her, nothing, holding champagne like glass and just tears. Now, if you see the Netflix, when you go on Netflix,
yes,
and you scroll through the titles, and they have normally the picture, a poster, like a small digitized poster of the film.
Yes.
The first season of Fleabag is of Phoebe's face with mascara streaming down her face. That's exactly what she looked like when I was leaving that day. It's so crazy. And I turned around and I said to her, listen, we both were been through a hard time at the school. I said, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. And she's kind of like, It was, and what's happened since has been amazing. She wrote, the story, she wrote her own stuff. She started her own theatre company, and now she's freaking she's like ghostwriting James Bond now. Like she's
Exactly.
one of the script editors. She's great. She's
You
great.
were also in school with the daughter of the guy who founded Ryanair. Is that correct?
I was, Danielle.
Really?
Who apparently
You didn't know that, did you?
an Irish reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I've got a little bit of, now I've got a little bit of coolness. Gaelic cool.
She wasn't. She had plenty of money anyway.
No. You know what's interesting? Danielle is really...
Sorry. Okay. Sorry, Obi, go ahead.
No, that's funny. No, Danielle's really, she's properly gorgeous. You know, she's half Sri Lankan because, what's his name? You would know his name. What's his name?
Michael O'Leary.
Michael O'Leary.
Yes.
Yeah.
He, I think I think had an affair or whatever, but the mother of Danielle is Sri Lankan, so she is half Irish and half Sri Lankan.
Right.
Bananas, right?
Yeah.
Were you attracted to her?
She was the hottie in our year.
Yeah.
Danielle was the hottie in our year.
Could she act? Could she act?
Yes, but she didn't want to because she's rich.
Oh.
Right.
And so within a couple of years, he died, right?
Yes.
And so her and her brother, Tristan, inherited like...
Yeah, he's still alive.
No. Is he?
Yeah.
Is Michael O'Leary? We'll look that up afterwards, the podcast.
No. It can't have been Michael O'Leary.
It's the other fella.
Or maybe it's
the guy
the fella.
The Ryan fella, not the heir.
The guy who actually is called Ryan. The guy who's actually called Ryan.
Right. Maybe he's dead. Yeah.
He's dead, yeah.
Gotcha.
No, Daniel's dad is definitely dead.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes.
So when he died, he left her and her brother like 200 million pounds each.
Nice.
So what Danielle actually did was that she started off a RADA, an Irish in Dublin, like a sort of an Irish arm of RADA.
Yeah,
which I think she is. Do you know about this? She started off this school.
Yeah,
that's Danielle. She was in my year. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what she did with her dad's money.
Did you ever try it on with her?
You know what? Everyone did, but the only person who got in there was Chris Daly. But I beat up Chris Daly when he called me Nignog. So in a way, I kind of did. You know, in the old Freudian sort of sexual kind of conflicted way it all works out. We kind of dated.
Can you talk us through
in my mind
beating up Chris?
No, well, can you first talk us through trying to ride her, trying to get in her knickers?
Nah.
Okay, fine.
No, I had no chance. She weren't interested. Interested.
Fair enough.
She weren't interested in me, but she's a lovely girl.
Punching Chris.
Yeah.
He's no longer
horrible. Chris's remark is obviously horrible. So he dealt with it accordingly.
He called you a racial epithet, like he.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. But it had been going on for 6 months. And so, just like Tom Brown school days, I was like, outside, young man.
Yeah.
So we went outside, and I was like, you do that again, and I'm going to give you a thrashing. And he was like, what are you going to do? And he tried to headbutt me.
Oh, my God.
And so I wasn't having that. We started fighting. So everyone jumped in,
Right.
And obviously 7 guys jumped on me to drag off Chris, and 2 girls jumped on Chris to drag him off. Leave him alone! So it all became about, big angry black guy attacking defenseless young. Yeah. And that's kind of what happened. So we were both equally suspended. And I spent the next 2 years being very angry about the whole thing. But eventually what happened was that he made the mistake of doing the same thing in the 3rd year of the showcases. He was doing that to some of the other non-white actors in the year. And basically he had enough. So it came out in the end that, this guy had issues.
Yeah.
But he was supported by the school. So all that systemic stuff I experienced quite a lot during those 2-3 years.
Right. Yeah.
Did you find that? So once you graduated from RADA, like you just told us that beautiful story about the agent said you got an audition in 20 minutes. You found that you worked pretty rapidly.
Yeah, I did. I worked quite rapidly. I mean, I wish these times that are happening now were happening when I started, because there was always, even though I was working quite a lot, there was always this. You just never feel at home. I mean, everything's been said and done the last 5 weeks with all of this stuff, whiteness, blackness, history, all that. But the overriding thing for actors and artists is that we're always on the search to feel like we belong somewhere, right? And we're trying to express our storytelling to give us that kind of that need for connection, right? And so you're going into these environments. Yeah, you're getting work. Yeah, you're working. You're big. You're all cool. I was very lucky. But I was never really happy. I always felt like I didn't ever belong.
Wow.
And most actors, you know, not just black, but any actor who is not feeling comfortable with whatever environment they're in is going to know that feeling very well. You know?
Yeah.
Constantly feeling like you just don't belong, and you desperately want to tell the stories, your story, and join in, right? Join in the big party. Like, there's always that feeling.
Well, I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying. I also think, like, you know, an actor's place isn't to be in an acting school institution anyway. Like, that's not...
No, you're 100%.
We're not supposed to be there, like, you know. Yeah. Academia is for academics, you know.
Exactly.
And acting is not an academic pursuit.
100%.
So
100%.
That was probably some of it too. That's, you know, that's how I felt anyway.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. And I think one of the things about, for example, Shakespeare, which has been hijacked by so many academics, is that becomes really accentuated, doesn't it? Like, I find that Shakespeare is, a lot of people do Shakespeare, they don't act it, they just do it. Yeah. And most of them are academic. And then that's seen as kind of a high point of acting culture within our country.
Yes.
And it distorts what is possible, you know. Sure. And then you throw the racisms and the classisms, and then you're constantly looking for validation. You're constantly feeling, why do I always feel like I don't belong? And so it was kind of like that. But I worked a lot, and I had worked with some amazing people, and you know, I had big leads at the Old Vic and Young Vic, and it was pretty great.
Yes, and we would love for you to talk a little bit about, because you mentioned using it as an audition piece, getting to play this iconic role for any black actor over the last 30 years in 6 Degrees of Separation. Could you talk to us?
Yeah, that was great, man. That was the height of Kevin Spacey's kind of Hollywoodization of the West End, right? He's properly tearing it up in the West End, and bigger and bigger names were coming, and I was very lucky that Anthony Head and Leslie Manville were both like, I was so lucky. Again, I didn't really know. I mean, I knew a bit about Anthony because of Buffy, right?
Buffy the Vampire
Slayer. Because of Buffy, a little bit. I didn't watch Buffy that much. I heard about Buffy.
I watched it.
Manville.
Michelle Gellar, all that. Yeah. But Leslie Manville,
No, go ahead.
Yeah, but Leslie Manville, I knew nothing about. And then obviously I started doing my research, and I was like, whoa. I remember the first day of rehearsals, I said to her, she goes, we were just sitting there talking lunch, and I said, so you're married, whatever? She goes, used to be. And I was like, oh, cool. Oh, that's cool. So, you're not married anymore? She goes, oh, we divorced. I was like, oh, right, sorry. Any children? She goes, yeah. Yeah, Alfie, he's 20. Oh, is he an actor? No, he doesn't really like it. He wants to sort of work behind the camera, not like his dad. Oh, so your ex-husband actor? Oh, yeah, he's an actor. Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, okay. So who's that then? She goes, oh, it's Gary Oldman. Oh, yeah, I know who he is. Yeah, Gary Oldman. Yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah.
Wow.
Dude, I was constantly doing this I was constantly stumbling into these kind of things. Like, Gary freaking Oldman.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously Kevin Spacey, he would pop into rehearsals.
Yeah. Let's talk about Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, tell us your early impressions, etc.
What's up with that guy?
Very charming man by all accounts.
Kevin Spacey's probably one of the most charismatic people I've ever met in my life. Like, he just has, it's just the thing. He has the thing.
Yeah. Je ne sais quoi.
Some people say he might have a dark side.
We can't speculate.
Yeah, some people say.
The whole thing.
We believe in the process. Yeah.
But no, he, after what came out, I felt so sad because, he helped me. He helped me so much in my career.
Sure.
Like, he because he's American, this whole black-white bullshit, he was so on it because he knew that I was the first black person to play a lead at the Old Vic. Mm-hmm. And the Old Vic is older than the United States of America, right?
Right.
Yes.
And when he told me that, like the second week of rehearsals, he made it very clear what his plan was for me. He was like, and Obama had just got in,
Yeah.
You know, so it was all this like
Zeitgeist.
like positivism, and it was kind of cultural energy, a bit like now. We'll see what happens with this like watershed moment. We'll see what happens, but
Sure.
at the time he wasn't having it. So, you know, there were big posters of my big, you know, mug all over London, and he was like not having it. So, you know, fast forward a few years later when all this stuff came out, I'm conflicted because I don't know, you know, who knows what the truth is with so much pedophilia within Hollywood, and who's doing what and who's doing that. But at the same time, he did so much for my career, and he was kind to me, and he was very proactive, and there were so many things that he just was not having, and so yeah, I'm very sad as to what has happened. Like, it's pretty devastating, really.
Absolutely.
He helped me a lot, man. So, but what's your take on it, lads? What's your take on all of this?
We don't want you off air.
He did it!
Well,
but he did, what kind of energy did he give off, though? Was there like...
No, I mean, he's definitely, I mean, he's gay, and I think...
But just to be clear, he didn't try anything untoward on you.
Oh, no, I'm not his type.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
So, you know, I'm a bear.
Well, you're a grown man. You're a mature man.
No, but I picked the word. I picked the specific word bear. I picked that word for a reason. Like, you know, I'm a bear. Like my brother, who is gay, would tell you about, you know, the designation of these words. So the fact that I'm a bear is pretty pertinent. So I'm a big burly dude, and I am so not his type.
But
I didn't know at the time, but I was very lucky. Sorry. Did
Kevin have a light behind his eyes?
What, when he saw the big bear walk into the room? Nah.
Forget it.
Wow, I love it. The title of this podcast is In Defense of Kevin Spacey. Wow.
No chance.
Okay.
So let his type.
No, that's fantastic.
He likes Gamine and.
So Obi, how was it working on the West End? Was that like, hey man?
Yeah, it was really I was very lucky, and I you know, there's so much you I don't know what you guys think of this, but you know, when you have these moments that seem so surreal and overwhelming, it's so true. You don't enjoy them as much as you should because you're still kind of coming to terms with it, and then it's gone, and then you only have the memory, and you're like, did I just? And that's what it was like. It was overwhelming. It was really overwhelming. You know, I came to terms with fame, like not globally, but the idea of it, like it's all true. What we all experience, what we think we want as actors is what we shouldn't want. It's all true. Like people start treating you differently. Yeah. You know, you start becoming paranoid because everyone's faking it. It's all true. It's all true. It's all true. And if you don't, and every kind of little flaw that you have as a person is maximized.
Right.
So having friends close and having your issues sorted out before you even get local fame, which I have for a brief period, is so important. You know, because so many of us actors who get the thing we shouldn't wish for, we tend to do our dirty washing in public, and we know what's happened with so many of us. You know? So all those things are true, and it was crazy. It was weird. It was like I was living out a film that I had already seen. Like I was like, what is like? Oh, so it is true. Like people start treating you differently. You can go into certain places, like these secret doors that were there suddenly open, and you can walk into them. Like it's like you've been led into this club for a period, you know. So it was a lot of that. And performing at the Old Vic was such a glorious experience. I was so blessed. It's such a beautiful theatre. It's very warm. It's got like a little bell curve, so it's got like a nice round kind of structure to it. But because of its age, it's a very warm theatre. So
right, it's not a new theatre.
No, it's like 400 years old.
Because it's called the Old Vic.
Yeah, man.
Forget it. Moving on.
You've also, is it true? Sorry, go ahead. What were you saying?
I was just saying, I was just very lucky to perform. I was blessed.
Right.
Lucky.
Is it true you've also worked with Juliette Binoche?
I did. When I finished, I'm sorry, someone's sending me some text messages whilst like.
Well, you are famous, so
yeah.
not to be honest.
yeah, I did loads of stuff. And 2012, 2015, I was lucky to work with Ivo van Hove in Antigone.
Oh.
And he was casting, he cast Juliette, and he needed 5 other actors. So I was lucky to be one of the 5 or 6 of us lucky to be cast. And we traveled the world for 9 months. So we did Edinburgh, Glasgow.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was amazing. We did, and then we ended up in New York, which is how I ended up signing with an American agent at BAM. We ended up at BAM in the Kennedy Center at the end of the tour. And so Juliette is, man, she's just, she's just got sensual energy. Sensual, not sexual.
Yeah,
sensual. She's
sure.
She's so beautiful. And
what's the difference between sensual and sexual?
Please explain
for our audience.
She's very sensual. She's very like she's very everything is very close.
Very French.
You'll always lean in when she's looking at you. She's always.
She has rather large breasts, I believe.
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
I don't know about chicken when she has a salad.
Say it again about the salad. What?
Chicken when she has a salad.
Oh, okay. I see.
Very large chicken breasts when she has a salad. That's what she does.
Fantastic.
Love it. And you've also
but
go ahead.
She's great. She's really great. She's really great. And one of the great things about her is, I don't know, you guys, I don't know if you guys are like cinephiles like me, but you're talking to someone who's done like freaking Kozlovsky films. I love Kozlovsky. He's like one of my favorite film directors, and I can get to ask someone, what was it like, having someone, Krzysztof Kozlovsky stick a camera on your face? Like, what? I got to ask her that, like, because she did that, she did 3 Colors Blue, and so these little things were, these little moments were real pearls, little gems of joy.
Absolutely. You were in a movie with Danny Glover as well, is that correct? Yeah,
an independent film, which I'm not proud of.
Okay.
But because it was my first lead, and I learned a lot. But Danny again, I was playing it. We were the other slave film, because it was 12 Years a Slave that year, which cleaned up, as you guys know, and any other slave film. And we were one of the other slave films. And it was, a very ambitious Dutch guy wanted to do it. And there were a lot of problems. Again, it's so funny because everything that's happening now, you wish that you had a time machine to live out those experiences now, because things would be so different.
Is there, I hear you, is there stuff to be learned from someone like him, like an established, experienced movie actor? Did you find yourself learning anything from working with him?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Danny, I'm still learning now because of the turbulence of change of coming here, and I think I'm slowly starting to settle down into much more of a rhythm. But it's your first big lead. You're on set. He's doing it because he's part of trying to help people. He knows this is a small film. They haven't got much money. Curaçao wanted to tell the story of their kind of local hero, Tula, who was he's like the Robin Hood of Curaçao, but because of this system, the Dutch wiped
He's talking
out
about systemic racism, people.
I certainly am. Because of that. No, I'll be here. Because of that, the Dutch had wiped out all of Tula's history. So this very white, liberal, cool Dutch guy, documentarian called Jeroen Leinders, he wanted to redress that situation. And so this is going to be the first sort of film or screen depiction of Tula that they were going to shoot in Curaçao and try and involve as much of the Curaçaoese as possible, but they were trying to get all these international stars to sell it and surround it with. So you can imagine on the island, it was a huge political deal. And Danny put his weight behind it because he believes in sort of black diaspora and Pan-Africanism. And I didn't need to do the film, and it was my first lead. I was a no-name actor. So I got to observe some of those magic things that Danny has learned over a long period, right? Time.
While you were filming with Danny Glover, did he ever utter the sentence, "I'm too old for this shit"?
No, but he never had that. But he used to do this thing that was really funny. He used to do this thing where there was a scene. because you're on set, you're always making fun of each other. He has that gravitas and that presence. There was this thing, we had to shoot this scene where he played Shinichi, who was like the slave master. Was kind of the father figure of all the slaves. And Tudor played by me is like the upstart that wants freedom. But these white owners, we're going to go and get our freedom, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's this thing where we throw down our tools. Like, we down tools, mate. We down tools. And so
like Manchester United.
Of course, well, not at the moment. Saw us last night. I watched that against Brighton. We were awesome.
Delighted with top
the only good things about this freaking quarantine lockdown, I'm starting to see my team come back up.
Yes.
Bloody Liverpool. But no, yeah, so in this scene, we down tools, and then he comes out and he says that the master said that because you guys are putting your tools down and you want freedom and stuff, this is the beginning of the film. He says he wants you to put the daffodils where the carrots were and put the carrots where the daffodils were. So this is kind of like, the Sisyphean freaking tasks that these slave masters will do as punishment, like these pointless things. So this is a scene where we've all had enough and we're starting to uprise and stuff. So all Danny had to say was, paraphrasing, he had to say that. So he'd come on and he'd go, Master said, put the carrots. Shit. Cut. Okay, we're gonna go again. And so we're doing this take. Oh, for some winner, hang on. Cutting out here. Hang on, lads. Yeah, I'm back. So we're doing this over and over again for like 15 takes for some weird reason. I don't know, like the formation of the words, like he wouldn't know which way it was, and then he'd be going, put the daffodils with, and then you hear from the side, put the daffodils where the carrots were, Like, went on for like literally 15 takes, and we're all like with our fingers in the hot sun laughing, and he's laughing. He was so much fun, man. You do stuff like that. It's great.
Brilliant. For our American viewers who are fascinated by British TV shows, could you tell us about your performance in one of the greatest TV shows ever made, Foyle's War?
Oh, Foyle's War. Oh, I like that. I like doing that. That was great. I was working with Charlotte Riley, who is now married to Tom Hardy.
Very good.
And she gave me she was such an open, wonderful person to work with.
Did she have the horn for you?
Yeah.
Did she find you attractive?
Well, Tom would come and kill me, so I better be quiet on that one.
Yeah. You sure? Fair enough. Just curious.
No, she was cool.
I apologize, Obi. Why he's asking these kind of questions.
You asked one earlier.
No. She didn't find me attractive.
But she's a brilliant actress. Yeah,
I loved her. I was totally in love with her. I don't think she found me attractive. She was like, but no, she was such an open soul, man, and she was so gentle and so nice and kind and like. And Michael Kitchener is a bit of a legend.
Kitchen's a genius, yeah.
Yeah, he is a bit of a genius, isn't he? He would every day give me like a masterclass in screen acting. So the whole thing was a bit like, again, you're doing it and you don't appreciate what it is until you get back. And I was playing an American GI who was falsely accused of a crime, and so all the themes of now are very prevalent. Of now are in of all the things happening now are in the film. Sorry, it's all the fatigue.
We're going to talk about that in a few minutes.
God, do we have to?
We have to.
No,
we don't. Sorry,
we have to have
tell us more about Kitchen. Sorry, we're getting off track.
Yeah, we're getting off track.
Yeah, no, he was.
Talk about
one of the wonderful things. One of the wonderful things about Michael is like he would do this. Like it's funny, you just learn so many different things about actors. He would do this mad thing where you'd be on set, you'd be doing the scene. And then he'd be like, oh, yeah, I don't know. And you're thinking, does he know his lines? What's he doing? Like,
oh, wow.
And he kept on doing it. I was like, what is he doing? He doesn't know what is it. And then you go back and have a little peek on the playback, and it'll be all there. And you realize that he's so in the moment. Like, he would literally not know what he was going to say, which is what happens in real life. So it will translate on the screen as someone being in the moment.
Brilliant.
Like he had, and obviously he'd been doing it for a while. think it was like the third or fourth season, so he had the character down pat. But it was such a lovely little thing that he taught me. He really got me, because I properly thought, this guy doesn't know his lines. I don't know what he's doing. But then you go and look on the monitor and everything would be there. It would be so freaking amazing. Like,
wow.
And so working with him was fantastic. Fantastic, man. He was brilliant, so understated, so subtle, so sensitive. Brilliant actor, man.
Absolutely. And on a completely different note, you had the pleasure of working with the comic genius Dawn French.
Yeah, that was interesting. I was playing a bit of a wacky character in that. It wasn't really my best work, but she's amazing. She's like a national freaking treasure, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, she's so what's the word? She's very
Dave just said fat.
No. No, she's very. She's a beautiful shape. No, she's a sort of, she has this energy that's like, she just like envelops you with all this warmth.
Love.
Like, she's very warm as an actor, like a person as an actor. She really is, man. She pulls you in with her warmth. Right?
Did you learn anything about comedy from her, like her timing and all that stuff?
Oh yeah, like Ab Fab and all that. Like she's brilliant. She's a genius. She's a national treasure, man. Right. And her ex-husband's not too bad. He's not done bad for himself, has he?
Lenny Henry, indeed.
Yeah, he's not done bad.
Lenny Henry, who's a brilliant dramatic actor as well.
Yeah, who was a legend.
Yeah, he's not done too bad. So that house must have been, for a while, must have been a freaking riot. That house, man.
Yes. Yeah, we love Dawn French and Lenny Henry, Ed and Dave. The 1980s.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, I think we've covered a lot about your fantastic career.
What about
well, actually, no. Sorry.
Talk about any American TV credits, or
we should talk about American TV credits, indeed.
Yeah, our favorite TV credit. Go on, America. Yeah, let's talk about.
I've only been here a short while.
You worked on a few shows, right?
Yeah, Billions, and you know, still getting used to it here. But working with Paul Giamatti was something.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
Right.
I was really
brilliant.
Yes.
And he's you know more about him here than we do in the States, but we know his films in England, but we know his films, and again, I'm very lucky. The national freaking treasure. He's a bit of a national treasure, Paul, isn't he? He's just, and the show is so kind of in your face. So I was lucky. That was like my first sort of big sort of foray into network screen, network TV, whatever you want to call it, cable, and a high-profile job, and working with all these big luminaries. All my scenes are with Paul, and a hell of a lot on that. I had to read through all these amazing American actors I've seen, you know, Damian Lewis, obviously not American, but good at it, and all these other people like who I've seen on screen, past and present. All in this read through, and you're sort of seeing all the different techniques, and all the, so again, you learn. You're like, oh wow, this is amazing, and you're in the mode of sort of, so you're a little bit overwhelmed and stunned, but again, you wish you had more time to sort of enjoy it, you know, to really embrace the moment. Yeah. But I think it's a thing as actors, isn't it? We kind of get things, and we're a bit like, oh my god, this is so fucking amazing. And then when it's gone, you're like, oh shit, I wish I could have enjoyed it more. I wish I could have really let it sink in my bones, and I really taken my fun with it.
You played the lead in the critically acclaimed production of The Emperor Jones at the Irish Rep.
I did, man.
Talk about working on a Eugene O'Neill play, and how did he do writing for Black people?
Oh man, that was a very spiritual experience, man. Yeah. I was so lucky to play that, and I really want to do it again. Actually, I really do.
How did they find you?
They just saw the stuff I've been doing. I came to BAM and I've been signed up, and I was very lucky because Aaron Arbus brought me to Debbie Brown, the casting director at Tafana, and said, get him to meet Kieran. And so I've done loads of stage work in England, done the Globe, I've done all the things. And and I met Kieran, and we just vibed straight away, and I was terrified. I was really suspicious of the play at first because I didn't understand. I could see how if you do it the wrong way, although there's no right way really, but if you do it in a particular way, how it could be seen as upholding a white supremacist ideology. Mm. But again, this is why Eugene is such a the genius of a human being for me. You know, some people may not disagree and say he's a man of his time, but I think bullshit. I think that, you know, at the time in his life, he had gone to the West Indies and was experimenting with LSD and all sorts of shit. And I think he was having a deeply spiritual awakening with his moral guilt, with his whiteness. And this is what he came out with. And I think in terms of interpretation, which is where I decided to go down the route in the end, I tried to as much as I could every night because it's hard. It was so hard, but it was so rewarding when I would get there sometimes, was this truth about the effects of trauma by whiteness on black people. And I think, you know, I'm going to be talking more about this next week with JDT. I think, and Kieran, I think that the problem at the moment is that, not at the moment, but the problem generally, I think, is that when we ingest trauma, when we take it in as human beings, I think what happens is that we become, we sometimes unconsciously become the thing that we hate, or we're told to be, we ingest that. I think that's across the board in any kind of abuser-abusee relationship, you know, enabling relationship. And I think one of the problems with these times and all this craziness and 400, 500, all this long freaking period of constant, you know, whiteness and blackness is that so many black people have unconsciously ingested these labels and don't want to come to terms with that. Like there's one thing being, you know, Black Panther, being Martin Luther King, and all these amazing luminaries that have done so much to bring a balance into this argument. But for me, what's more interesting is the actual psychological damage that racism does to a person, not just black, but also white. Because whiteness is the issue here, really, not blackness. And so I took this controversial, I didn't realize at the time until I did it, like way of looking at it through like purely psychological terms, like don't try and make the guy noble. Don't try and make him noble. Don't try and do all that bullshit. Do him as you would the people that you know that have been fucked up by racism. Like much more of a modern take on it, like someone with PTSD, you know, and try and see how the language fits with that. And you know, some nights, a lot of nights I got away with it. Some nights it was more difficult because you got in a very classically cadenced, like what would be seen in another way as like stereotypical black speak, which then could be, this is why I think a lot of people have attacked him for being racist. But what was incredible about it is the nights when it really worked was that it was just so modern. Like, and that's what a genius is. Someone who's timeless can fucking do that. They can reach from whatever part of the universe they are. They can reach into the future. They can reach into the past. They can reach from where they are in 1920 when he wrote it to now, and it can work. And there were nights when people were a bit kind of, they didn't know what to do at the end. They were kind of in shock. And I didn't know what happened. It was like something came through my body. Like I was channeling something. It was mad. Wow. Mad. It was just the most spiritual experience I've had on stage in my life. Like, and I, you know, all actors, we know when that happens and they're so rare. And I just wish everyone could have that. Every actor can have that. And I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah. Eugene O'Neill is the real deal. Was the real deal.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, O'Neill is the purest playwright that ever lived.
Yeah, is that your view?
That's it. This isn't my view. This is fact.
No. I mean, I've got. Yeah. I think. I mean, I've got there are a few others I would add, but in terms of.
But for a man to write plays, you know, and die and say I never want them published, and then be published after he died, like.
Yeah, he was a genius.
Well, no, but he also wrote a lot of his plays not to be produced, not to make money. He wrote plays because he had to write them.
Yeah, it came out from him. Yeah. It pulled from his guts. Like it really was.
That's pure to me, you know.
Yeah, he really was the real deal. And I didn't, and you know, but this idea of humanity, you know, and he had such a tragic life, a very tragic life, and he had so many addictions, so many demons. You know, it's amazing how trauma for us artists is such a necessary kind of fuel source. You know, it's mad. Like it's such and how our addiction, sometimes we confuse that fuel source with needing to sort of re-damage ourselves to keep that fuel source going. It should be more the other way around, that we have the trauma, we use our art to kind of heal ourselves. And I think that's why Eugene had to write, because he was trying to heal himself. All the time. When it came, that's why that that sort of catharticness of the writing was so prevalent because it was a form of, he was trying to heal himself. You know, he had to find a way to deal with those cracks in his soul, you know. And so I think for any pure actor or any actor who's proper, you got to do an O'Neill, man. You got to, or there are a few other writers I think that are in the same canon. Not many, but there are a few. These writers, they speak so strongly to us because they are why we act, I feel. Because I feel that why we act is because we're trying to heal our traumas.
Yeah.
I really feel that.
I almost did a Eugene O'Neill play, but the World Health Organization had other ideas.
Which we'll get to, in a second. But before we get to that,
What was it? I want to know. What was it?
We were rehearsing this just this past spring. It was what was the name of it again?
A Touch of the Poet.
A Touch of the Poet.
Where was it going to be?
At the Rep.
At the Irish Theatre, starring David O'Hara, directed by Kieran O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Kieran.
Starring David O'Hara and a bunch of other people.
Yes, that's what I said too. But it's interesting, if I may ask this kind of left of center, slightly quirky question before we talk more about the WHO.
Yeah.
You know, you spoke so eloquently there about trauma and O'Neill, and O'Neill is often seen as Freudian. Obviously, in New York, in our circles, we hang around with a lot of middle class, lovely actors. I don't mean that in a derogatory middle class. You know, they're lovely people, but and a lot of them have therapists. Do you have a therapist, Obi? Do you work with a therapist?
So I'll turn the light on so you can see me.
Wow! He said it.
Well, we weren't going to say it, but
we've already hung ourselves tonight with a few. Juliette Binoche hits and
in these times, it might be quite a thing to not be able to see the person you're interviewing. Right?
But seriously, I'm just wondering about that because, you know, actors often need someone to talk to about what they're going through and stuff like that. Do you have someone does therapy interest you, or has
therapy? Yeah, I think. Oh no, I've got a controversial view on therapy. I think.
Oh, please share.
Yeah, definitely. I think that every actor should have a therapist. Why? And I think one of the things that, I think, for example, Juilliard, Yale, NYU, you know, all the big places, RADA, all the big places in the Western world that train actors. I think, you know, you do your Stanislavski, you do your animal work, you do your thing, and then at the end of the week, you do your therapy session for an hour. I think it should be mandatory across, if you're going to go into training, and it should be mandatory for any kind of equity or any kind of SAG union. I think that everywhere that access should be there. I think it should be mandatory, actually.
Right.
I think you should have your therapy and you should have your your equity card. They should be both you should have your hours that you've totaled up on a card as well as your equity card. I really, really believe that. I think it's very, very important.
Sorry.
Progressive.
And brilliant. And speaking of mandatory, Ed Malone has a question for you.
Oh, go on.
We've been asking a lot of guests this question, and we were wondering what your take is on the possibility of having to take a vaccine. Will you take a vaccine or will you not?
Oh, I got to do my Serbian, Novak.
Oh, this is Serbian accent.
I got to do my homage to Novak Djokovic.
Brilliant. Deep reference.
I got to do my... No.
Are you pro-vaccine?
Are you pro?
I don't know yet. I still don't know. I don't know.
It's a grey area.
You know what? Look at what's happened with this drug that has been the United States has brought up. It's brought up all the supplies for the last 3-4 months. It begins with our remdesivir, whatever it is.
Oh yeah.
I just find that so much of this is corporatized greed, man, and it's so uncomfortable because I know that obviously people are dying, and it's very important that we have some form of some kind of vaccine. But if I'm going to take it, it's going to be the most medically, I don't know much about medicine and pharmaceutical companies, but certainly this is going to be the most researched thing I'm going to, pill, drug, whatever, shot that I'm going to have researched in all my life. Because I think what's going on at the moment on the corporate level, the corporate pharmaceutical level,
of course,
is so wrong. It's so criminal. It's so criminal. I think we should be doing our research if we're going to take this vaccine.
So is that a no or a
they're
yes?
out of control would agree. Huh?
Is that a yes or a no?
Or is it it depends on what's in it?
He wants to pin me down. Can I abstain? I don't know. I'm torn.
No, but look,
You're like Natalie and Bruglia.
No, but I think it's common knowledge that like people take flu vaccines every year, right? And
yeah, they do.
I've personally known, I have a few anecdotes where when people take the flu vaccine, they still get the flu after.
Yeah. I don't take it.
Yeah.
Touch wood. I don't take it.
But what if it became mandatory to take it? Let's say you booked a Broadway play, right? Let's say you got to play Othello on Broadway, and they said, and they said, Obi, if they said, you have to take the vaccine or you can't play Othello, what would you do then?
Oh, mate, that's horrible. You're giving me the curveballs now. Oh, man. That's mean, bro. Oh, man, then
But what I'm trying to say is, it might come to that.
I would. No, you're right. I think it will come to that. I don't even think it might. I think it will. I think that we're going to enter a time where people are going to have a card which says that you've been vaccinated, and those who aren't are not going to be able to enter certain places or work. I think we're coming to that.
It will always be like segregation in a sense.
Yeah. It's going to be like the freaking Handmaid's Tale. It's going to be some dystopian future of freaking biometric analysis or this shit.
Can I talk?
Then then I've got no choice. I'll do my research and I'll take it, basically. Very reluctantly. I'll take all the nanotechnology and I'm pumping into my bloodstream.
I have a question for you about the quotes thing, right?
Yes.
Right.
Why is it always black and white? How come the Chinese and the Spanish and all these guys get away with it?
It's funny.
Why is it always black and white fighting?
You know what? This country, we know the political history. Yeah. We know what happened. We know what happened in this country. We know about slavery and Reconstruction and the lies, whiteness, and all the craziness. Everyone's seen 13th with Viva DuRainey. We know about the disproportionate prisons. We know that this is all fucked up. We know, and we know why. And we know what Trump's trying to do and not allowing people to atone. But I watched, just to quickly say, man, I spent the last 5 weeks doing a lot of reading and a lot of revisiting. And I think, to answer your question, why is it always the black and white? I think, Dick Cavett, Dick Cavett?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's great. He's such classy. I wish we had those guys back on TV.
Yeah.
Because they were so
working on it.
Intelligent, and really listened.
Yeah.
Really listened. Right? Now we got freaking blackface dudes, right? Yeah. Anyway.
Well,
name names, please.
Well, no. I don't think
Jimmy Kimmel did.
I don't think he did.
Jimmy Fallon did.
They all did. Yeah.
They all did blackface.
Like they're dudes, not dudes.
Yeah. The hypocrisy.
Yeah. So I think if you look on YouTube, there's the famous one where he's interviewing James Baldwin.
Yes.
1958, and he actually asked the question. He says really intelligently. He listens to the same things that James Baldwin said, that I would say, that Martin Luther King, that Black Lives Matter. That's why it's so wearing, because it's the same shit that we've been saying and we've all said. And he asked a very querying question. He says, for me, why is it, he says, that there seems to be a specific kind of a weird primal thing when it comes to black and white? He says, more than any other racism, there seems to be something, he said, that's very kind of, he said, primal, about more so than all the others. That's what he said. It strikes me as that. Do you think it's something kind of physiological or something much more? That was such an interesting and intelligent question. And James Baldwin, you see him go, he really thinks about it. He goes, I don't think so. He says, I actually don't know. But it's a really interesting question. It's like what you are asking. What is that kind of primal? Why? Because I think it is something primal. I do. And I think obviously racism is taught, for sure. But why do we have such such a visceral response to paleness and darkness? Is it simply because they're such polar opposites? And so therefore throughout history they've mutated and contorted in their different forms, and now we're here where, what is this need for oppressed to be dark and the oppressor to be light. I think there's something in this ballpark of the primal.
But,
I don't know.
And just piggybacking off that, and I'm just talking about the situation we have in this country right now in the US.
Yeah,
like,
these times.
Yeah. Like, do you believe that like the black community is a monolith and the white community is a monolith? Because I see poor black people, I see middle class black people, I see rich black people, and I see poor white people, and I see middle class white people, and I see rich white people. And I mean, like, it's not that simple, right? Yeah. Okay.
But in terms of a monolith, I'm talking about race.
Right.
In terms of monolith,
it's not black and white, right? I'm just kidding.
No. In terms of a monolith, it's I think that's why maybe that's the answer to your. I think you're answering your own question. Like you see rich white black people, you see middle class black people. It's the inference of the statement is, so why is there still this problem? Because you're not living in poverty, are you? So why is there still? So I think the answer to the question is because there is still this monolith of blackness, and now we're establishing that the monolith exists because there is actually a monolith of whiteness. And I think now that we're identifying whiteness, I think now we're going to start to see that all these labels really are ridiculous. Right. They shouldn't exist. But the problem at the moment is that there's been a long history of crimes and suffering, and there have to be some form of reparation. There has to be some form of justice, because that's just spiritual, let alone legal and all things. So that's that's the kind of the Gordian mind that we're in, separating the fact that this is actually all ridiculous, but at the same time having justice, moral justice.
Yep.
Dealing with that, and that's where so many white people are frightened, because they know that these people have been treated for so long this way, and that they're gonna want their revenge. Is it just equality they want, or they're gonna want revenge and do what we did to them? That's what the great bind is at the moment, because essentially all of this is just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. You're not white, and I'm not actually black. None of us are these colors, apart from some like albino people in the north of Sweden, or some like a small couple of thousand like black blue people in like the foothills of Kenya, the black blue tribe, these like really albino people. There's the rest of the billions of us are all sorts of shades. Like it's all control, it's all mechanistic control.
Yeah.
But the problem is that there is recompense to be paid. That's the problem. So much damage has been done.
Well,
so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask one last question, just a general thing.
Yep.
What do you do, Obi Abili, to come down from a very intense role, or indeed to come down from world events?
Oh, we're still stuck in it, mate.
No, I guess what I'm saying is, I assume you're not the kind of guy to seek escapism through porn.
No.
Not what you sometimes. So what do you do to unwind?
You know what it is? It's the old FM20, mate. The American viewers will not know what the hell I'm talking about, but you guys might. Championship Manager or Football Manager?
Oh yes.
It's been a godsend, especially these last like 3-4 months of quarantine and lockdowns. I play Championship Manager, which is a game, a soccer game, everyone. It's like a simulation, and you can pick any Premiership team. Look at me. All my cool points just fly right now. Like everyone's just going, "What the hell is he talking about?" He sounds like an idiot.
I brought it up.
Basically, it's computer gaming. I do a lot of computer gaming to switch off, and I've started to write a lot.
Really?
Writing, yeah. Thank God.
Like what kind of stuff?
Writing a play and a screenplay at the moment.
Great.
That's something to do, and and I've also been doing an online course for psychology. Wow. So obviously, as we know, all the theaters are dark, so we're waiting to see what happens. So in this time, I think a lot of us are either writing or we're doing this stuff that you guys are doing, which is fantastic.
Thank you.
Reaching out and creating a podcast series, or writing plays, or doing Zoom readings of virtual plays, or all these kind of stuff. So yeah, you gotta try and be creative and keep busy. But I love. If I have to switch off from everything, it's a nice bit of computer gaming. I love computer games. So gonna get myself a PS5.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
So all that.
Anything else, Dave? Is that it?
Oh, that was
a riveting,
wonderful conversation.
Wow, we went
riveting.
Yeah. So much. We can't wait to see you back on stage and on screen soon.
Oh yeah, I mean, who knows, man? All of us have got so much. I don't know what's going to happen, man.
Are you allowed to talk about what's coming next? Are you allowed to talk to our viewers?
No, none of us are. I mean, when's I spoke to Kieran. He said that September, right? That you guys might tentatively start rehearsing, right?
I didn't hear.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear.
He said he was thinking about September. He didn't say what play.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So
you won't be back on a TV or film set for a while.
Well, I had an offer. I had my first network show, which is I was so relieved because last year was so tough. But ABC cast me and 6 other actors in this pilot called Wreckage, which was going to be shot in the frickin' Indian Ocean, man.
Wow.
And then the WHO said, "No, I'm not doing that. You're not going to the Indian Ocean."
I know. You suck, WHO.
We will take you down.
And that's the end of our podcast. I'm just going to stop recording.
Thank you, Obi Abili.
Thank you.